production company as well. So, and you guys all know each other. So, Tyler, I'll let you just do the rounds. But we do look a bit like the Brady Bunch, don't we?
A little bit like that, or a stamp collection.
I must say, it's a great honor to be among such talented people as all of yourselves. So if I get to be one of the 9 stamps, I'm immensely grateful for that.
Me too.
Maybe I'll be the 1 cent iteration, just the one at the back of the collection book.
Yeah. Whatever.
Hey, Piers, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you? It's good to see everyone again.
Good to see you too.
When was the last time you all got to see each other in person?
Boy.
For me, it was a year since I saw Lance, and then September and Tiff when I saw Viggo and Gabby.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
Hey, Gabby, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Love Gabby's hair.
Love your ears.
I couldn't find the other cat ears, so I just put on the pom-poms.
Oh, you couldn't find them, the ones from the movie?
No, they're breaking apart too, so I have to super glue
I'll
them.
have to get another set.
Hey, Gabby.
Remember those, Lance?
Her earmuffs?
Yeah, the ones she had in the movie, you remember?
She'll be wearing those until she's like 35.
Probably.
At least, exactly.
So just how everybody knows sort of what I'm doing here, I'm not actually going to be on screen. I'm kind of running the tech for all this. So when we go live, this is going to be streaming to Eventive, which is the site that people have watched the film on. They have a chat there, so they're not like the audience isn't actually going to be part of this call, but they have a chat where they're going to ask questions. I'm going to copy them into the chat here, and then Wendy and Tyler can ask. So that's kind of what I'm doing. You won't see me during the chat.
Are they watching it now as we speak?
They are, yes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, the
felt-
Just ending, I guess.
The movie's just ending. Yeah, we have 2 minutes and then we'll be going live. So, and we should have a pretty good audience because we had a flurry of ticket sales this week. So, which was great.
So when we go live sorry.
No, go ahead.
When we go live in about 2 minutes, I'm going to do a short introduction to the audience. And then once that's done, one by one, I'll go around the Zoom call introducing you by name. After I say your name, if you want to just say a 5-second hello. And then once that's done, we'll get into the first question for the night. We're hoping to go somewhere in the 35 to 40 minute range, but we'll cut it off a little after that unless we keep getting a lot of questions coming in. Just
Sure.
before we get started, does anyone here have any questions?
Gabby probably does. Any
What do you
questions,
think?
Gabby?
No.
I look a little shorter, don't I, Gabby, on this thing, huh? A little shorter.
That's better. Yeah. Sorry, my viewing was weird, so I can only see one of you.
Well, all of you, what an amazing film. I was just watching it again. I'm going to be watching it a 3rd time, but just riveting.
Wow,
Thank you.
Great film.
thank you very much.
All right, so we've got 2 minutes here. Here we go.
Gabby, who's your friend that was just on camera a second ago?
This is actually something Viggo got me when we were on the last day of filming in LA. It's like a ballerina swan.
Oh, that's sweet.
Also, I keep looking over here because my cat keeps popping in, so.
Oh, my cat does that all the time. Sometimes I'm teaching at Sheridan and the tail pops up right in the middle of my face. I'm lecturing and I've got a cat on my lap. It happens. It could happen during the Q&A too. We just roll with the punches.
As a disclaimer, all pets are welcome should they magically appear on camera during this.
How about little brothers?
No,
Yeah,
little
little
they're not.
brothers. I've had that happen in class anyway. And I was on a Q&A once where a cockatiel flew behind the host. So anyway, it happens. Who knows? All right, we are ready to go. So I'm just going to flip us over. Here we go. All right, see you guys on the other side.
Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, and distinguished audience members. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for the OFFA's Winter Screening Series and our second film of the series, Falling. We hope you enjoyed the film that's just wrapped up, and we're so glad you're now joining us for this live digital Q&A. My name is Tyler Collins. I'm the arts reporter and film critic for Oakville News and oakvillenews.org. You can read us for free every day online at oakvillenews.org. The OFFA Winter Screening Series is also co-presented by Sheridan College, and we're grateful to have both their support for the festival and also Sheridan alumni with us for each of our panels as well. So tonight we are joined by a fabulous group of the cast and crew who created Falling, and they are here to answer your questions. Just going sequentially around the Zoom. First, we have Liz Lee, who is the third assistant director on the project.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Liz.
Hi.
Next, we have Gabby Velis, who played Monica.
Yay.
Hey, Gabby.
Hi, thank you for having me.
In the center, we have Dan Bekerman, one of the producers on the film.
Hello.
And
Next is Piers Bijvoet, local Oakville boy, who is joining us from here in town tonight at his own home, who played Will.
Glad to be here.
I didn't recognize you. I'm sorry. Sorry. I mean, you look this big, you know, it's like.
In the third row, in the bottom left, we have the star of the film who played Willis, Hollywood legend Lance Henrikesen.
Hello. Hi.
amazing.
And last but certainly not least, we're very grateful to be joined by the director, co-producer, writer, and star of the film, Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah.
Nice to, well, I can't see any of you. I can see who we are, but I can't see any audience members. But whoever you are and wherever you are in town or outside of town, thanks for joining us and for watching our movie.
We're also grateful to have Viggo with us. He's currently Skyping in from Europe, so we're very grateful for you to come and do this first thing in the morning with us, where the rest of us, it's the end of the day. So last thing for all of you in the audience to know is there's a chat on this side of Eventive right here. If you have any questions you'd like to ask anybody here, this is a live event, and if you type in your question, they'll be forwarded to myself and Wendy. Oh my goodness. Of course, we also have Wendy Donnan, our executive director of OFFA here in the top left. I'm so sorry, Wendy.
That's okay.
If you have any questions you'd like to ask our distinguished panel, please type in your questions and Wendy and I will be more than happy to ask them for you. In the meantime, we have a couple of questions of our own. So first, let's start with Viggo. Can you tell us, how did the concept and the idea for Falling come to you?
Well, it was something I started writing after my mother's funeral. My mom was from across the border from where you guys are, more or less, northern New York State, near the St. Lawrence River, Watertown, New York, actually. And I had gone there for her funeral. She passed away in the town where she was born. And I was actually thinking about another story, trying to raise the money for that at the time, a completely different kind of movie story that I hope to make someday. And she had had dementia, like Lance Henrikesen's character in the movie, for a few years before she passed away. And I was just writing down things, trying to remember things that she had said, you know, everything was very vivid, as normally happens when someone dies that you're close to, you know, images of her, things she said, stories I remember about her. And then I heard some of those same stories, just slightly different versions of them at the funeral, of course. And then some new stories, met some older people that had known her and during her childhood. And I had a lot in my head as I was traveling home after that. And I wrote all these notes down, and then when I looked at what I'd written down, I thought, you know, it's from different time periods and so forth, different points of view, different, you know, very subjective memories of her from different people. And I thought, well, that's an interesting, you know, foundation for a good story. So I started writing it down as I thought it would be a novella, you know, short story, something. And that's what I wrote, basically. And a couple days later, I read through this thinking, well, it's probably a hodgepodge. It's probably not that interesting, but I did like it. I thought it was, the structure was good. And that's what the, you know, eventually that's the movie ended up being pretty close to what I'd written down in that story. And, you know, it was a story where I'm writing things about how I feel about my mother, but it became a fictional story. There was just a few things taken from my real, you know, childhood and adolescence, at least as my subjective memories of it. And but at the heart of it was the story of this father and son primarily. And I guess I was trying to explore things about communication problems that we can have in our families and in our societies, you know, probably never more so than now, or it's been a long time since communication has been so poor in society, I think. Not just in the US, but I think in Canada and Europe and other places, there's a lot of polarization. And so that's among those things I wanted to explore, I guess.
Now, you have an extensive filmography on camera, but for this, this was your directorial debut as well. So I can imagine it was different coaching yourself from behind the camera and in front. So I'd like to hear from Viggo what it was like playing both sides, but then also from Liz, how does your job as an assistant director change when the lead director on the project is also in the cast?
Yeah, it's a good question. Probably the question to Liz. That's going to be, yeah, what she says. Might be in for it. I don't know.
I can't wait to hear this one.
I mean, for us, it was very important. Just the movie is a very emotional film, so it was very important to us to just always keep the set quiet and focused as much as possible, so that Viggo could interchange back and forth as much as he needed to. A big thing for us too is that we had, you know, playback, the abilities to play back after every take, if necessary, to kind of jump back and forth. So it was just kind of riding the emotions of the scenes and making sure that the crew understood the importance of what was happening on camera. And thankfully, I truly thought the crew was amazing on this film. We couldn't have asked for a better crew, truly.
It really was an amazing crew. I mean, Liz and everybody else. I mean, we had a very tight schedule. I mean, we had 5 weeks in Ontario, five-day weeks. And that's not a lot for a story like this, that's structured this way, that, you know, different time periods, lots of kids working with limited hours, you know, shooting in winter, limited daylight hours, and shooting out, you know, there was you had to drive for almost an hour before we even got to where we had to work, you know, in the middle of winter. So it was a big ask, and we had a great crew. I had a great partner and Daniel Beck, and co-producer. And that was crucial as far as what it felt like to, I wasn't intending to act in the movie originally, but it, as I saw that, like the other screenplays I tried to produce, it didn't look like it was going to get the money together. I thought that last little bit we needed, if I was in it, it might help. And it would also continue the relationship that I developed over a few years with, especially with Lance Henrikesen. We'd gotten to know each other well and work on the script a lot, and we could just continue that relationship, you know, on camera. It seemed that it turned out to be, and as it worked out, because we prepared really well, the crew and everybody else prepared really well. It wasn't like there were a lot of surprises. I knew what we were going to attempt each day, so I wasn't that worried when I was, you know, on camera working with Lance. And in fact, I was just really just focused on him, what was in the frame at all times, which is what you should do as an actor anyway. You should always like be really, focus on everything about the other person or persons you're working with. And that relaxes you, and you're more responsive when you're really, and less self-conscious, focused on the other person anyway. So in a funny way, I was more relaxed acting in this situation than normal.
So I'd like to move on to some of the rest of the cast now, specifically to Piers and Gabby. Your experience I found interesting as an audience member because I was about your age when I lost my own grandfather to Alzheimer's. And so I had a lot of empathy for what you and your characters were going through. What was it like living through this experience as actors, watching the experience unfold with the adults around you?
Yeah, most of my grandparents died before I was born. So I never really had much experience with a grandpa. Both my grandpas died before I was born. But it was definitely interesting, like kind of an alien experience for me because I'd never experienced that, but kind of just, like cool to see, how like it kind of plays out, in that way. And it was also because I was in the receiving end of some hate in the film. It's a bit scary like that, like if someone who can't really control themselves is really just coming at you and you can't really defend yourself either. I feel lucky that I haven't had to experience that in real life, really, but it was definitely a new experience for me.
Yeah, same with me. Like this was my first ever thing. So like actually getting the opportunity to do this was like scary at first. And then once I saw how kind and caring all the actors were, it was really easy. It was just, I'm glad I don't have to live through that in real life yet. Because honestly, it was kind of scary at some points.
Piers, you just mentioned how it's sometimes difficult being on the receiving end of some of the hate that Willis was throwing at you, or Lance playing Willis. So I'd like to hear from all four of the actors. How does it change working on set when you spend all this time pretending to fight with each other on camera, and then in between takes, that's not at all what your real relationship must be like?
Well, it's not pretending.
Well, no, sorry. What I mean is it's different when you're doing the take.
I know what you said, but it's not pretending, and it's we've all agreed that we want to tell this story. And so if you agree to something, then there's no reason to run because it's safe. Acting is a safe place. It really is. I mean, and so we were telling a story, it's and living it as much as we could. I mean, my favorite person in the whole thing was Gabby. She was my granddaughter. And she never judged me, and she liked me, and I never attacked her. I mean, how would I or why? And we would tell jokes, and she would defend me to other people. You just don't understand him. That's all. He's going potty. He knows where the bathroom is. Yeah, it was a great relationship. Yeah, all of the relationships were really good. I mean, I loved the actors in this whole movie. I really did, all of them. Yeah.
One of the common comments we've been getting from our audience as they're coming in is saying how good the film is because of how honest and sincere the entire cast was able to portray it on screen and how the crew was able to build it off screen as well. This leads us into our first question from the audience. Dale Andrews is asking, this was a heavy topic that required some very emotional performances. So what was the mood like on set for the film? Was it draining at times, both for cast and crew? I'd love to hear just from Dan and then also the rest of the company here too.
Yeah, it was actually quite remarkable on set. I think what you were just talking about the sort of honesty and just the the frankness of the emotions and relationships that were being portrayed affected the crew. The crew kind of got in sync with the story, and we saw really emotional reactions from a lot of crew members who, you know, probably, well, I had a couple of crew members tell me that they were more proud of some of the scenes that they were part of making than anything they'd done in their career, and that really meant a lot. And I think that atmosphere on set was contributed to the quality of the movie. So yeah, it's, you know, honesty is scary, but it's also can there's a lot of power in it too.
It was incredibly encouraging, I think, not just, you know, for the actors. Obviously, if you feel like you can see and feel from the crew that's around you as you're working, that it's not just another job, that there's a personal investment. It really, it helps. It's like you're playing on home ice, you know, there's an unconditional support and interest in what you're doing. It really helps you, I think. And I found as a director, first time out, it's exactly the same thing. It's like, okay, you're not just doing this because you got this job and that's it. It means something to you. You're wanting it to work. You're feeling things. You're relating to things about your family in many cases, as Dan said. And it made for an amazing atmosphere. You can't predict that that's going to happen. I'm going to try to set that situation up by just being open and welcoming contributions and so forth. But you never know if you're going to have that kind of strong personal, emotional connection with the crew. And we did, and it was very helpful.
You know, it's a little bit akin to NASA. When you watch them excited over that thing landing on Mars, I mean, when we were done, that's how we felt. It happened. It all happened. And it was unbelievable. I mean, we were a unit. We were a club, a tribe, whatever you want to call it. Because by the end, we felt the reward of having done it, really. And from one scene to the next even. You know, it's not only the total completion, but it's this scene that we just did gives us more confidence for the one that's coming. And all of that was going on as well. You know, it was amazing. It really was. I liked everybody. You wouldn't know it from the movie, but I did.
This leads us into our next question from Kumru Gutierrez. Films tend to portray dementia much differently than you guys did in Falling. So what made you to decide to portray it the way you did?
Well, it was more personal. It was as if our lives depended on it. You know, because remember, we're moving from even upstate New York to LA. We're going all over the place. And every time you get somewhere, there's a new surprise. There's a project waiting for you with like an alligator ready to, you know, take you apart. I mean, and then there's the things you can't escape, like Terry, and you know, I mean, and you know, his husband. It was hard to, you know, it was like, whoa, wait a minute. You know, the shutters shutting and opening and shutting. That's the way it felt, you know, like back in the 20s in Paris, you know. That's how they described Picasso's movies, paintings, I mean. Shutters shutting and opening and shutting. That was what it was like.
We have an audience member asking about a particularly heightened scene from Nancy Fornicero, the scene where John, Viggo's character, finally snaps and loses patience with his dad felt like such a release for her as a viewer. So she wants to know what it felt like for the two of you as actors when you were shooting it.
I wonder if a good description would be, I felt like a parent and an orphan kid, is what it felt like, both.
Huh.
It's an odd tennis match, and it really is visceral. I mean, and so, And it had to be that way. There was just no other way. And Viggo's ideas were so good that we knew it had to live up to the whole of the movie. I mean, that was a hell of a lesson, the whole thing, the whole movie. I've never had a part like that, and I loved every minute of it. I mean, I didn't love it. It was not lovable.
You loved the experience of it.
I did.
That was a scene that we had to, as it turned out, just because of, we had that location, the first part of the shoot. And we did need snow outside the windows, and for several reasons, we did that scene very early, a few days in. And I mean, you're gonna have to deal with it sooner or later. So in a way, it doesn't matter. But if all things being equal, we would have probably scheduled that scene a bit later once we'd gotten our feet wet, as far as, getting to know each other, acting together, crew, everything else. But the way it turned out, it was just very early on, a few days in. And Lance and I both knew that this was a key scene, that if this scene didn't reach a certain level of intensity, I guess, if it wasn't uncomfortable for us, it was probably not going to be uncomfortable for the audience. And it needed to be for us to earn how the movie plays out beyond that scene. And it's the tension that's created in the movie by one person being on the offensive, the other making a conscious choice to avoid conflict as much as possible. It's like a forced effort to not fight back. That creates a particular kind of tension that finally, as the person asking the question brought up, for there to be relief, like that person was talking about, then it had to get to a certain level, and so there was a certain pressure there. But what ended up happening was that scene probably did as much as anything to build the connection of the group. When we finished shooting that scene and looked around, people were crying, people were really connected. And I think that was one of the days of work early on that Dan was referring to, where the crew just felt like something unusual had happened on the set, that it was being part of telling that, and we all felt like we were connected. It was very crucial for everyone to make that thing work.
You were talking about that tension and then relief, especially in the structure of the movie. We have another audience question from Zaina talking about how powerful the structure is. How much did the film evolve and change in the cutting room, or did the edit fall in places we expected it to?
It wasn't too far off. It was just sequencing mostly. There's a few things that I moved around a little bit. In particular, something that got altered a little bit was the whole duck story, which is what happens with this duck in the story, from the first moment you see it flying to, finally that family's eating it. It's a way of introducing this family and the dynamic between the father and the mother, and the father and the son, the mother and the son, and the connection that that family has to place, environment, its natural surroundings, and I guess to life and death. I mean, it's just a way in. And that, in the editing, I did move one piece of that later in the movie, as you know, the dinner comes late. Repositioned a couple of things, but it wasn't vastly different from the script, really. It didn't change a lot. I think part of the reason for that was that we had a long time before we.
Seems like we've lost the connection, but we'll come back to this in a couple of minutes. In the meantime, I'd like to talk about the experience of.
He's back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, no, it didn't change that much. And part of it was because we had a long time to prepare the movie, I think. And so,
So next, I'd like to ask, this is a question for everybody about watching the release and having the movie come out amidst the pandemic over the last year, because the movie had its premiere at Sundance in 2020. So this has been slowly rolling out over the last 14 months. What's the experience like for all of you to see the movie come out in various stages, places, and times, some in person, some digitally? And what's the reception like? How does that change how the audiences connect to it?
You're asking about commerce. I'm not a very good. You better ask Dave that. Daniel, I mean, I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know anything.
Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been about as bizarre as everything else in our lives for the last year, you know. It's no one had a roadmap for how to do this, how to release a movie. So we've been improvising along with the rest of the industry and the rest of the world, really. It is like doing events like this, I think, show that there is something interesting possible, even in these circumstances. And I think we've seen how much people still crave stories as a essential ingredient in their lives. And having this movie released in this way, I think we've seen that in particular with this story and why this story has meaning for people. And that's been really rewarding. And, you know, of course, you could compare it to some ideal fantasy of what the perfect release would be. But, you know, I've got a lot of personal reward. It's been very rewarding for me seeing how people can connect to this story, even in these strange circumstances.
For everyone else, as actors and directors, you know, sometimes in the movie there's a premiere and then it comes out the next week and then most people have seen it. But here it's been very staggered, where audiences are slowly discovering it over a long period of time. What's the reception been like in that way?
I don't think that's a bad thing. You know, the only bad part is I don't even get recognized pumping gas because I got a mask on.
and I'm just looking at everybody that, you know, all of us, our team, and, you know, and thinking about what you're saying, Tyler, about this long period. It has been a very long road, getting the movie made and getting it out there in different places in the world. And actually this, for me, it's it's 3:50 a.m. For you guys, it's 9:50. This is probably, I'm not sure, but this may be, of all the places in the world where we've done Q&As and connected with people, sometimes in person, some mostly like this. This may be our last one, I think. And it's kind of fitting to finish where we started in Ontario province, you know, in the middle of winter. It's almost to the day. It's almost, I mean, it was the first few days of, it was the beginning of March of 2019 that we started shooting. And here we are wrapping it up in a way. I mean, the movie will continue to be seen, I think, and have its life. And I think the story will be remembered as one of the movies of this time. But yeah, it's a nice way to close a circle in Oakville. So
there's been this long, incredible period, and I've gotten so many emails and all kinds of things coming over the internet about the film and people's reaction to it, and it's all been incredibly generous. A lot of people really like the film, and in a great way, It's not just, this is not chewing gum for the eyes. This is something that they keep telling me. The more I see the movie and I carry it away with me, and the more I think about it, I want to see it again, and I want to have that experience again. And I have a daughter who's a grandmother on her mother's side, just passed away from, at the end, she was in complete dementia. And she said, my daughter called me and said, Daddy, I can't see it now. I will see it eventually, but it's too much has happened over the last couple of months. And I never really talked to her about it. We will when we see each other. But I'm getting my second shot, by the way.
Hey.
I will be able to see her.
I'm curious to hear from Piers and Gabby, because I love this group we have together here, because at one end there's Lance with your 60-year career in Hollywood. And then at the other end is Piers and Gabby, where you guys, this is both your first feature. What's it been like sharing it with your friends and family and seeing yourselves in a movie for the first time?
For me, going on with people liking it, most of my class has actually seen it, and they're like, actually most of my school who knows about it, and whenever they see me, they're like, oh, there's Gabby. And so I'm just, to be here right now and to have filmed it and being with these amazing cast and crew, I'm just really happy I got the experience to do this.
Yeah, and considering this was my first movie, I feel really grateful that I got to work with such an awesome cast, because I really feel I learned a lot from Viggo, Lance, and Laura, and some of the people who had been in a lot of movies. So it was also really cool to get to, in my first film, go to Sundance and stuff like that, and TIFF. And I'm really happy to get to be in the film festival of my hometown. That's really cool as well. So yeah, I just feel really grateful to be part of this film, because it's just such a cool film, great message. It really digs deep,
Yeah.
We have another question from the audience from Chelsea Reichart. Gabby, did you feel intimidated at all working with such big actors and actresses?
First, I was a little worried, because I was like, oh, I'm gonna mess up. It's my first time. I'm definitely gonna mess up. And then near the end, when we were in LA, I just felt calm, and I was like, I can do this. I'm not gonna mess up. And then the last day of filming, we just went right through it, and I was like, no, why is it over? So I got mad when I got home because it was over, but no, I didn't really feel intimidated by it.
It probably helped because you could see us messing up once in a while too. That probably didn't hurt, right?
Yeah. It made me feel a lot better.
So Viggo, you were talking about the Canada connection earlier. One of our questions earlier that I missed from Cindy, she asked, you seem to be making a lot of movies in Canada lately. What's the attraction?
Well, it wasn't a planned thing. I mean, I've had a relationship with Canada for a long time. I spent my adolescence right on the other side of the border, where my mom's from. And I just happened to work there. I mean, in the 90s, I made a movie in Quebec, and then I've worked with David Cronenberg a few times. I've been probably the Toronto Film Festival is the festival I've had the honor to attend the most times of any festival, and with different movies, Canadian movies, American movies, European movies, Argentine movies, all kinds of stories. And I don't know, I've always had an affinity. I mean, I know the other side of the border from our place well. Been there a lot. I like the landscapes, not just in the east but the west. I mean, I know the country fairly well. I'm not one of those Americans that can't tell you where the capital of Canada is or or that they're provinces, not states, or with how many of them there are, so forth. I mean, you know, so my grandfather was from Canada, he's from Nova Scotia. So yeah, I have a connection. As far as working in movies there, it's just a thing of chance. It just worked out that way, but I'm very happy. What was good about that is that I knew when we were preparing the movie, you know, starting with the relationship with Dan Bekerman and Natalie and other people from Scythia Films, and Deirdre Bowen, you know, the casting director. But I knew that there were great crews. I mean, I'd worked with them especially in Ontario. And so I knew that we had a chance to put together a really good team to tell the story. And, you know, since there is a lot of work happening up there, or was at the time, now it's trickier like it is everywhere in the world, but it'll come back, I'm sure. You know, in the Toronto area, there's a lot of great crews that work a lot. And so you have a lot of choice. And at the time we were lucky. I met a lot of really talented people, and we were able to put together the great team we had.
Sean Cisterna is asking about David Cronenberg. He says, as a proud Canadian, a huge grin came across his face when David came on screen as the Doctor. He wants to know what made him the ideal choice to play a doctor. But I'm also a big fan of local Toronto actor Paul Gross, who I caught as a doctor in another scene. Yeah. So I'd like to know about both of them.
Yeah, we had two Canadian directors playing the doctors. That's right. And also the father of Hannah Gross, who plays Gwen. That's Paul Gross. You know, the casting David in particular, it wasn't really meant to be an inside joke or a stunt or some kind of, you know, cinephile geek thing, although I suppose it probably is in a way too. I just really thought he'd be perfect. I'd seen some of his acting and know him very well. And I thought he was the right type, the right person. And I thought it would be a great combination with Lance. I thought that they would play well off each other. So I said to him, David, it's not, you know, it's not, I'm not really even asking a favor. There's a part that I think you'd be great in. And if it's convenient and you like it, great. And if you don't, it's not a problem. Fortunately, he read it and liked it a lot and showed up ready for work. And, you know, for the crew, I think it was a special day, obviously. I mean, in any country, it would be a special day if David Cronenberg comes on your set to act, but in Canada, it's extra special, you know.
I had a very delayed effect because I didn't know who he was when I was working.
That's right. I didn't know that. I had no idea until a couple months ago. Lance Skyped me one night. He goes, Viggo. We've been doing Skype a lot because we've had to get these tools to do these interviews. And so he'll Skype me at any time, you know. And one night, ding dong, and I open up and there's Lance and he says, you know what YouTube is? And I go, yeah. He goes, there's all kinds of stuff on there. And I go, uh-huh. What did you see? And he says, well, I suddenly had you and Dr. Klausner. Yeah, you and my proctologist are having a conversation. It's like, what the hell's that about? And then I'm watching and then I realize, oh, they're talking about David Cronenberg movie. And that is David Cronenberg. And you're like, why didn't you tell me? I'm like, I thought you knew.
We did those scenes together. And it was like, when I saw that, I really dropped what I had in my hands. I said, wait a minute. He's done some really good movies, but I never saw him, you know. So.
Right. Yeah, you knew his movies, but yeah. It was funny. I remember on the day asking you what it was like. How did that go? Did you enjoy that? And you go, yeah, that guy's good. He gave me a run for my money. He was strict, but yeah, he seemed perfect.
Yeah, but I didn't want him to operate on me. There was something, you know. But he was a great guy. He really was.
Lance, I have a question for you. You've had an amazing filmography over the years of hundreds of different titles of films and television. Is there one in particular that has a special place for you or a favorite project that you've ever done?
You know, but they're all for different reasons. You know, I mean, I've done a lot of like Near Dark and Pumpkinhead, Aliens, and all of those kind of movies. And then I did a series called Millennium up in Vancouver, by the way, for 3 years. That's like 60 shows. And I swore no more TV, that's it. I'm done. I was so tired by the end of it. But anyway, I've worked in Canada before, and I like it up there. I really do. I like the people. I like the culture, I mean, it's a specific place. And so I've been blessed with all these different movies. Everything from, the only thing I didn't do was The Tomato That Ate Chicago. I wouldn't go there. I can go to other places.
You said no way to that one, huh?
Family to feed. I mean, it was irregular. I wasn't Clint Eastwood. I wasn't that kind of actor. So I was content with just plain working. I liked it. I like work.
So next, I'd like to go back to Liz. You and I have a connection as both of us are Sheridan graduates. I'm wondering if there's any specific thing you learned during your Sheridan days that came either useful here on this movie or has had an impact on your career since graduating.
I mean, the Toronto scene, it's remarkable to see how many people actually are Sheridan grads, and I come across on set on every other day, every other show. So that's always a fun experience to kind of find that out. I think Sheridan's program is so hands-on that you when you do your first day on an actual union show or a movie, you're not surprised of what's coming at you. And I don't know, it's just, it's a very well-rounded, the program I did, which was ATVF, was just a very well-rounded program. And it just, overall kind of just kept you calm on your first days. And then it's a nice way to kind of look back on and reminisce with the other people's stories when you come across other Sheridan grads. So, yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
To end us off, we have one final question from the audience tonight, specifically a DVD collector excited about seeing it again. Does anyone know, and maybe Daniel's the person to ask, when can we expect a DVD in the US and Canada? I think you were on mute, Daniel, sorry.
Oh yeah, God bless you for still watching DVDs. I'll have to talk to our Canadian distributor Mongrel for that, but it'll be possible one way or another, so stay tuned on that.
It'll be probably months both in North America, I think, both US and Canada. One thing we are going to have on there, I think, or at least there'll be a version that has that. I hope all of them have it, but we'll see. We tried really hard. I hate it when you have a good scene that it doesn't make it into the movie. And in most movies, there's several scenes that don't make it. And in this case, partly because we prepared really well and we tried to make what we were doing possible. There's only really one, there's parts of scenes, lines that are gone and so forth, but there's one scene in particular. It's a short scene, but it's a really good scene, particularly for Gabby, for Laura Linney, for Lance, for Terry Chen, who plays my husband Eric in the movie. For all of us, it's a sort of a farewell scene, but where it came in the story, in the editing, I really liked the scene. It's a really good scene, but in the flow, I found, as you do in the editing, it didn't quite work. It didn't add something that we just had to have. It just didn't fit in there. But I like that scene a lot, and we did it, and we're going to have that on the DVD as an extra, so that'll be a bonus.
Wow.
Maybe
how many people were watching the movie?
How many people were watching it now?
Yeah, no. Tyler, how many people were in the theater?
So there was no physical theater for this screening today. This was done in people's homes. I don't have those numbers. Wendy, or we have our friend Tori Nixon, who's doing tech for us in the background.
We don't know yet, but we'll figure it out. We just don't know yet because people were still buying tickets coming right up to the.
Probably at least 500,000, I would say,
Oh.
Lance.
Yeah.
$1 million.
Somewhere around.
Maybe,
All of
maybe.
Oakville.
Yep, Oakville has a population of about 200,000, and I think at all 500,000 of us were watching tonight.
That's
See?
really-
I can tell you, everyone who did get to watch are huge fans of the film and the project, and we're so grateful to all of you for joining us here tonight for this very special event talking about Falling. Our thanks from OFFA and Sheridan College to Liz Lee, Gabby Velis, Daniel Bekerman, Piers Bijvoet, Lance Henrikesen, Viggo Mortensen, joining us all the way from 4 a.m. To all of you, thank you so much for joining us. And to you, our distinguished audience, thank you for joining us for tonight's edition of the OFFA Winter Screening Series. To our movie fans at home, don't forget we have one more episode of the Winter Series on April 22nd, Earth Day. We're showing Christopher Walken's new film, Percy, and there will be a live Q&A feature.
Bekerman.
Also
And
my
Daniel
movie, by the way.
Bekerman
Yes,
also.
and so if you're a Dan Bekerman fan, come back. We've got more Dan in April. And don't forget, we also have a new project, the OFFA International Women's Day screening series, 4 movies showing every Friday, from Friday, March 5th to Friday, March 26th. 4 great films, and tickets for both of those events and series are available on OFFA's website. To our audience members, have a great night. Please stay home and stay safe. We hope to see you again with more great movies at OFFA. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for inviting us.
Bye.
Time to
Take
go to bed,
care.
Rico. Thank you very much. We really appreciate
And
it.
we're done recording.
Thanks, guys.
Sorry, just before everybody goes, would anyone be amiss if I just take a picture on my phone for my personal photo album?
No.
Is that all right?
Go ahead, sure.
Thank you so much. Sorry,
You could sell it like a baseball card.
I love getting to do these events, but this is a particularly special Q&A session with all of you here tonight for a great movie. So, me as a local reporter, this has been a great honor for me to interview all 6 of you this evening. So thank you for letting me be part of this too.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks for including us, Wendy.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Care.
Bye. Have a good night.
Everybody, have a
Soon.
Good to see you, Liz.
Nice to see you too.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thanks.
See you
Bye.
later.
Bye. Thank you.
Good
Bye.
night, Gabby.
Thank you.
Night,
Bye.
Pierce.
We're all great, by the way.
Oh, I knew that.
Yes. Sorry, my girlfriend's been watching on the opposite couch here the whole time. We didn't want to stream the feed as I was doing it, so she's been enjoying the